onto the next segment of this defensive breakdown. And again, this is the very next play. So this is that 3rd and 4th play that I was just talking about. And it's a cover 3 creeper call. You guys, we always break down creepers. Again, they're not showing more than 4 guys, 5 guys near the line of scrimmage. It looks like a normal base defense when they're coming up to the line. But what's going to end up happening is they send Dodson right here and they drop out Rousseau, and they're just still running cover 3. But I want you to pay attention to how they space this cover 3 look, because it's really the theme of this game when we're talking the passing game, right, Anthony? And how they clog the middle of the field. This is cover 3, and all of the defenders are either at the numbers or inside of it. So they're trying to shut down the middle of the field in this cover 3 call, and they do a great job of it. And once Ed Oliver, you'll see it from the end zone angle, once he beats the center once again, he gets a piece of the ball, and then Phillips damn near intercepts it. But the completion may happen right here. It may get to the tight end there. But either way, once again, they're packing the numbers. They're packing inside. They're trying to shut down the middle of the field and those easy plays over the middle. And Ed Oliver did a great job of getting in the passing lane on this play. Anthony, talk about how many gaps he came across the field here to get a piece of this ball.
So he's lined up in a 4-eye inside the right tackle there, number 78. So essentially that is you basically like in your B gap there, and he crosses over the B gap next to him, which is between that right guard and the center, and then goes into the far side A gap. So essentially crossing over multiple gaps to make that play. And again, that doesn't happen without the quickness, the fast twitch. Again, he crosses over like his near side A gap and then crosses and then penetrates through the far side A gap. You see the quickness, you see the leverage, good hand placement again on Beatis, and then he rips through with leverage. And he makes this play, to get the deflection and have it, potentially be intercepted to Phillips. This end zone angle is beautiful too, to see like how many gaps Ed Oliver is really crossing.
And the hand usage.
Yes. Look at the hands. This one's good too. You can see that right arm of Ed Oliver chop down on the left arm of Beatis, and it pins it. Boom. Look at number 63, that center. He's trying to get that arm out, and he's almost kind of chicken winged because Ed Oliver slaps it down, keeps it inside, gets chest on chest. He's low man wins. Then he rips through that inside arm. Again, hand usage and technique, something that we've continuously seen from Ed Oliver this year, but then he pairs it with the power and the leverage to go through Beatis. And like you said, Eric, if this ball gets to Ferguson, you've got Rousseau and Taryn right there to potentially make that tackle right away and shut it down. And this is something, like you said, like them packing numbers in here. One of the vulnerabilities against cover 3 is those seams. And the Bills played it, like you said earlier, the highest percentage they played all year, but they weren't hit in those seams. And that's because they were playing this coverage, but they were playing it in a way to take away what Dallas likes to do.
Yeah, and that's a great segue to this next cover 3 call and this rotation here. So first quarter, 4:50 on the clock, a 3rd and 14 call. So this is a continuation of the play we saw earlier when I think it was the first play, right? The run check there. So now it's 3rd and 14. Again, cover 3. But look at what they're doing at the bottom of the screen. So Rapp is kind of capping Taron Johnson right here. So again, kind of trying to throw a muddied look at Dak and what's going to happen here. And you can't really tell that eventually Rapp post snap's going to drop into that hook to curl area right at the hashes. But that's what happens. And normally, and you can see it to the top of the screen, this is your flats defender. You can kind of see he plays the numbers. He's the flats player, but there's no one really out there, so he doesn't widen. Well, in the normal cover 3 call, that's what would happen. But watch what the Bills were doing on this play and in a couple plays after this. Instead of Taron Johnson doing that, instead of him just buzzing out to the flats to get out under the number 1 right here, because again, this is a deep third player. He is the flats defender. Instead of doing that, because of the 3rd and long situation, because of how the Cowboys love to attack the seams in the middle of the field, watch what Taron Johnson does. He just hinges, carries that vertically, and helps take that away. And look where Dak's looking. He's looking over to Ferguson there, and CeeDee Lamb's also in the slot going across the middle. But again, that different rotation, that different look, Taron Johnson working up the seam and working vertically, shuts down that play, and Dak holds onto the ball. And what happens? The pass rush gets home. Just great complementary football when you're talking pass coverage and pass rush.
Yes, this is what one of the examples in this game of what we were talking about earlier, kind of setting things up for the defensive film here when we talk about that marriage of pass rush and coverage. Like, the pass rushers do their job and get to Dak, but they're able to get home because of what's happening with the coverage on the back end. And Eric, this is a really good example of running a coverage, but having it be more of a match than it is just your basic spot
Spot.
drop
Mhm.
type of zone.
Good point.
For those who don't know what that means, I would hope there's a decent amount of you who do know at this point if you've watched the film enough. But instead of just, tearing, like you said, buzzing to your flat and just covering grass and covering a spot for the sake of covering it, for those who don't know, think of spot drop coverage as what happens when you play a zone coverage in Madden. Like those computer players are just dropping, oh, okay, like this
Mhm.
guy's supposed to be, 6 to 8 yards off the ball on the hook girl. Cool, this is where I am. And you've got him highlighted there. Like normally Taryn would be going out where you've indicated there with that arrow because that's his quote unquote
Right.
zone. But he matches Ferguson on the interior, carries him vertically. You've got Rasul Douglas locking down on the outside there at the bottom, cutting underneath Jalen Tolbert. There is nowhere to go for Dak. CD uncovers late, but he uncovers because Bernard rolls to his right because he's matching Dak and reading his eyes. There is nowhere for Dak Prescott to go. And that's because the Bills are playing this zone coverage, but they're playing it in more of a match way, especially to the bottom of the field. And it allows them, again, to react to what Dallas is doing, take away with the aspect of the field where the Bills know Dallas wants to work. And like you mentioned, too, like I love the way they presented it as well,
Mhm.
just showing everybody's also kind of even in that underneath area, but then it ends up being that cover three piece. And then again, Eric, you highlight up front, Ed Oliver
Yeah.
working upfield on the outside shoulder of Tyron Smith there and Von looping inside. We saw a lot of two-man games and different alignments and pieces up front that I think kind of went under the radar during the game. But when you go back and watch the film, you're really able to see, and boom, you highlighted their little petri dish. They similar to what the Bills did early on against Philly with good rush lane integrity and
And Mahomes
hemming
too.
Hurt. Yes, and Mahomes too, like hemming Mahomes and Hurts in the pocket. They did this with Dallas a lot, almost having like a four-man rush, but three and kind of a fourth as a spy a little bit hanging
Yep.
out, stunts, different games, really trying to confuse the Cowboys offensive line, keep Dak in the pocket and make life difficult for him. And it resulted in a bunch of sacks with relentless effort.
And I like this little two-man game, but Ed Oliver's again just playing from the shoulders up. So he's going first, and he obviously, takes the guard and tackle with him initially. And essentially, Von Miller and him are exchanging now Ed is, for all intents and purposes, the D end here. And you can see his helmet's inside right here. He's checking the top of the drop, what Dak's gonna do next. And I just love how he switches outside. So now if Dak does want to leave, that's shut down. But he doesn't just stop there. He transitions to that rip, drops his pads. So again, thinking on his feet. Now, does he get the sack? No, but he forces Dak to spin around here, and this is when Floyd closes and finishes. This is great pass rush, and again,
Mhm.
thinking from the shoulders up and anticipating what Dak's going to do, and then Floyd is anticipating what Oliver is doing and how Dak's going to react to it, and that's why he gets a sack, which is something Ed Oliver talked about in his post game presser. This is great stuff. Again, we talked about the back end; it was in sync with the pass rush, but the front four also did a great job of working together to kind of hem Dak Prescott in, and because the coverage caused Dak to hold on to the ball, they were able to do their job and get home. Just
Look
awesome
at the
stuff, man.
look at the hip sync and like the change in angle for Ed Oliver. Like right there, like he's almost upright against Tyron Smith. And in the blink of an eye, he drops those hips and gets that lean and turns the corner. Like that is not a normal or average thing that you see happen, especially from like an interior defensive player. But this is one of the advantages of having Ed Oliver or having that type of body type, that quicker, more athletic, smaller interior defender that it's a tremendous play from the neck up, but then also like tying it into the physical piece, just it's instantaneous. Like he recognizes it mentally and then sinks those hips, drops, wins that leverage, turns the corner. It's just he's having such a strong year, and it really isn't talked about enough. Like we could every week we could just do like a 25-minute Ed Oliver segment to highlight what he's doing for this defense.
The development is just, you
Mm,
see it. You
yes.
see it every single game, and he just adds to it. And like you said, we literally could do a segment every single week. So let's move on to the end of the first half, second quarter, 56 seconds left. This is that kind of that 2-minute drill that the Cowboys are trying to get down there so they could double dip. 2nd and 10 situation. There's a 4-yard gain for the Cowboys, but once again, cover 3, protecting the middle of the field, and Taron Johnson once again showing that he's protecting the seam to the bottom. CeeDee Lamb goes to the flats, but they're not worried about that. They want to eliminate vertical explosive plays, but also protect the middle of the field. And the look it's interesting because normally when you have these cover 3 looks, the quarterback's going to start looking one way and then throw a seam down the other way. And I think that's why they did that in this game, where you see Taron Johnson carry this vertically, almost making it look like a separate coverage. If a quarterback's taking a peek over there, he's probably like, okay, this is like quarter halves type defense here. And to the top of the screen too, they also kind of throw a little monkey wrench in there because Poyer is right here. He's the dime backer. You see him just go out to the flats. Again, he's a flats player, so he's going to carry that guy out there. But because of the rotation here, Cam Lewis coming down into that hook to curl area, Taylor Rapp getting to the post, but not quite getting to the middle of the field, it kind of looks like it's a too high coverage. And Dak only looked to one side of the field because look at how Rasul Douglas is kind of gaining width like a Tampa 2 type look. He's not staying on that cover 3 divider line where, again, 3 deep defenders, there's usually a cover 3 maintenance where they got to be a certain depth or a certain landmark before as they get vertical. It looks, if Dak's looking to just one side, it looks like maybe, hey, this is a quarter's coverage. And so he holds on to it. And Brandon Cooks doesn't know, hey, should I be running a corner here or should I be getting up the slot? It's that type of adjustment of a route. And so he's kind of like in no man's land here in a corner and then a safety down here. So that's not open. Dak, again, stays on it. And he's like, you know what? I need to check this down. And then here comes Cam Lewis, who is someone that I like his versatility. When you're talking about the safety and slot positions, he kind of a blend of both. And that's why you can do things like this with him. He comes up and makes that tackle. It's only a 4-yard gain. Clock's running.
I really like how they used Cam Lewis, Poyer, and Rapp in this game in terms of who spun, who was going to be in the box, who was the post safety, who was going to be in the 2 high looks. Like they rotated them well. I really want to see more of it. I felt like earlier in the year like even as far as like the last several weeks, like when Poyer was the dime linebacker, you knew, okay, he's going to be the dime linebacker. And I felt like that gave them opportunities to like experiment with the safeties and do different stuff with Rapp and Hyde and Poyer. And they leaned into it a bit more in this game. And I think it helped a little bit with that disguising aspect and trying to figure out who's going to be where. And you nailed it with like the technique there. You have it labeled technique confusing the wide receiver and quarterback. Like this is a cover 3 look, but exactly look at where Taylor Rapp is. Yeah. He's not really playing in that. I mean, based on alignment, no, he's not in the post. You're not a post safety. So if you're Brandon Cooks, you're reading exactly like you said. You're basically reading Rasul Douglas and Taylor Rapp as if like that's a quarters alignment based on where Douglas and Rapp are, but that's not the coverage that's happening. And that's a real annoying thing when you're trying to figure out something on the fly. And then, you highlighted Bernard. Like, look at where Bernard is shifting to. Eric, what's he trying to take away? He's working in that middle of the field, that seam area. Like they're taking away what Dallas wants to do, muddying the reads for Dak. And again, this is another example. I mentioned it earlier where, they were getting physical with Cowboys receivers, either in, like cover 2 looks or man looks with that press aspect. This is another way that they were able to slow down Dak and slow down the efficiency of Dallas by confusing them and muddying things enough to either make Dak just be like, screw it, let me check it down, or confusing him long enough to allow the pressure to get home.
Right. And here's another cover 3 look later in the game, 3rd quarter, 1:22 on the clock, 3rd and 9 situation. The Bills played cover 3 quite a bit on 3rd down, especially 3rd and long. This is a sack, a 9-yard sack here by the boys. So Bernard, the alignment's crazy. First of all, let's talk about that. Bernard is on the line of scrimmage right here. Floyd is off the line of scrimmage. Jordan Phillips is the D end on this play. So right off the bat, like trying to sort out where the offensive line should shift, it had to be a pain in the ass, to be honest, if you're Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offensive line. So that look is strange. You got a too high look. Looks like it's going to be too high from the jump. I mean, just look at the width of the safeties and look how deep they are. But post snap, this is an interesting little wrinkle. It's cover 3, but it's 3 deep, 3 under. So you have, again, these are technically your 3 deep players, but you only have 3 guys underneath here. So it's almost like they're blitzing, but they're not. They're only sending 4. And then you got kind of like a spy or rat player in Bernard playing that low hole area. And so, again, it may, look like, hey, they're sending a blitz but on the back end, because they look at the back end and the way it's
Mhm,
spinning and
mhm.
guys in coverage, but really they're not. Again, it's just a cover three call. It confuses Dak and the stunt from the end zone angle. And I'll let you break that down. Like
Mhm.
this was pretty nasty stuff, especially when you're talking Ed Oliver head up, using his quickness to kind of offset the offensive line and the finish between Floyd going first and then Phillips, looping inside. Like that was nasty. That was a nasty little stunt that McDermott cooked up.
It's so pretty, like you said, initially just from the initial alignment of like Poyer is even looking like
Yeah.
he's rushing. So you're trying to account for him. And then as the snap is about to happen, he drops out.
And you're
Bernard
right.
is
Before you
go.
go forward, like that's what Dak called out right there. He's
Mhm.
saying we're throwing hot off of him and we're throwing hot off of him. So he's letting these guys know off to the right side, especially Ferguson, that hey, if one of these guys goes, we can't cover all of them. So hey, you need to adjust your route or become that hot route. So you're right. They did think that Poyer was coming, which the Bills have sent Poyer a lot. We
Mhm.
did a whole breakdown, especially in the 2-minute drill when they
Mm.
sent Poyer or one of the safeties down at the quarterback.
Yeah, much to our disappointment, where those blitzes continued to happen over and over. Yeah, so Dak calls that out. And again, this is what's fun. Like Poyer drops, Bernard starts to come forward. Again, Bernard's in a pure rush alignment, but he just kind of muddle rushes and sits there as that low hole player. And
But he's
boom, you
accounted
highlight
for.
it. Yep, there's 66. Like he's ID'd him as his man. He steps up, but Bernard is like, nope, psych, I'm actually not rushing. I'm going to play the low hole. That's a wasted man. You highlighted it a minute ago. Tony Pollard is just kind of lost in the sauce a
Yeah.
little bit, trying to figure out who to take. He steps up and then IDs Phillips coming inside late on that game. But the person who makes it for me, you mentioned it, is Leonard Floyd. I love that he's off ball. I love his eyes initially. Like, look at where he's looking. He is looking inside. He's looking into that A gap, into the inside shoulder of 73 and starting to creep forward. And then on the snap, beelines it to, no pun intended, the B gap and spikes inside. And Eric, he spikes inside so effectively that not only does he clear the space for Phillips, but he also like gets free himself because of the juice and the
So
burst
fast.
out
Yeah.
of his stance. Like the quickness and the ferocity that we see from him week in and week out. And these are quick players on the left side. That's Tyler Smith and Tyron Smith. Like these aren't slow plodding guys on the left side of the offensive line. And he just beats them instantly by spiking inside. And we get, even though they're reversed with Floyd being an edge player normally and Phillips being an inside player, we basically get like that type of tech stunt, that TE, where Floyd is that spiker, Phillips is the looper, and it also works on this side. I'm thinking based on the look that the Bills showed pre-snap, Dallas ID'd this as basically like a man protection, like a 5-0 type of look. So
Yeah.
Tyler Smith, left guard number 73, he's treating Floyd like it's his man, and he gets too far upfield with him, which is part of what allows Phillips to come scot-free, which is also part of the reason Pollard gets lost, because he steps inside being like, yo, I thought one of these guys were coming in the
Yeah, he
middle
was
and
looking
nobody's
the
coming.
Poyer first, and then he was looking out here if Taryn or someone else came off the edge. And by the time he gets, you see right there, Poyer first, then he's looking outside, and then he's like, "Oh no, there's
Yeah.
Phillips running by him."
It's beautiful. And like, and Steele, number 78, he's working outside Vaughn. 66, his man is Bernard, but like we said, Bernard comes up a little bit and then sits. It's a good job of using Dallas's protection rules against them with your initial pre-snap alignment, changing some alignment of your personnel in terms of, what they were doing with Bernard and Phillips and Floyd. This was just really well designed again. So it's a really good schematic design, really good call from McDermott, but then the execution from the players. Like, I love this angle too, because I just can't get enough of the little deception from Leonard Floyd in terms of where he's
Yeah.
looking pre-snap. And then as he gets closer, just changes his body and boom, spikes and just clears Phillips so easily.
Yeah, and you guys in the chat are talking about Vaughn being out wide. He's essentially a contained player, only get as deep as a quarterback here. And once again, this is obviously schemed up on the left side to create that pressure and kind of force Dak off the spot, either to Von Miller or if Dak wants to step up here, he's done. He's done
Mhm.
right there from Bernard. So man, this was just very good preparation, scouting, design, and then execution was just on
Mhm.
point when you're talking that stunt again in line with the cover three looks on the back side of that and how they spun to that in the coverage side of things.